everybody, it's Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad y'all are with me today. Today's going to be another recommendations video, and of course, since it is Father's Day, I had to do a recommendations about fathers, and this one I'm going to be doing single dads. So I pretty recently, when Mother's Day was rolled around in May, I did a single mom's recommendation video. So if you haven't seen that one, I will link it up in the cards. But today we're tackling single dads. I am discovering that I really enjoy the single parent trope, whether that be a dad or a mom. I am a single parent, so I find myself relating to these characters a lot. And I also just really enjoy, since I do have kids myself, I really enjoy the whole kid aspect being brought into a romance. I feel like it adds a lot more depth to the story. And I just, it makes the characters not only have to either woo like their partner, but then also have to kind of help woo like the kids as well. So I just really love the whole dynamics that it brings forth. So I have several on this list, and there's more that I am wanting to read that I just have not gotten to yet. So there will probably be a part 2 at some point. I don't know when that will be though. But yeah, like I said, I have several for this list, so we're going right into it. Starting with One Hot Italian Summer by Karina Halley. This one is kind of like the name suggests. It's a hot Italian summer. Like, you get what it advertises, basically. So this one, our heroine of this story, she is a writer, but she is having writer's block, and she just cannot think of a story. So her agent is like, hey, I have a villa in Italy. Why don't you go there for the summer, stay at my place, and hopefully be in Italy, the country of like love, like a romantic language, that kind of thing. She's like, maybe that'll kind of like spark some inspiration for you. So she goes to this place, and she's living her best life, and she ends up going skinny dipping in the pool. And then there's this guy that comes with his son to this house, and turns out that this house is actually occupied by her agent's ex-husband and her son. So they decide, they work things out, and she's going to end up staying there with the ex and the son. And the hero ends up being a sculptor, so he's also an artist, so he kind of knows that about like finding your muse kind of thing. And of course, attraction sparks, but it's kind of a little forbidden there because he is her agent's ex. So there's that going on, but it is definitely a hot romance, and I did really enjoy this one. Then I have Broken Whispers by Neva Altaj. This is the second book in her Perfectly Imperfect series. This is a series of a mafia romance series. So this is book 2, but I do feel like you could definitely go into this not having read book 1. I believe all of these books, I've only read the first 2 of the series, but I believe all of these books are okay to read as standalones. So this, again, like I said, this is a mafia romance. This is a marriage of convenience. Just to the Brodfa and the Italian mafia are kind of at war, so they decide to have 2 people get married, just to kind of have peace between the 2 warring factions. So our hero of the story, he is, I'm not exactly sure the correct term for exactly what he does. I think he's kind of the enforcer, maybe. He does a lot of really dark torture kind of things. So he is getting married. He's also like very scarred. He has an eye patch. So he's not sure. He thinks this may be kind of his only chance at finding somebody is in an arranged marriage, because he's not what conventionally attractive. And then our heroine of this story is the daughter of the Italian capo. I think he's a capo. I can't remember if he's a capo or a don. Um, and so she's going to get married, but our heroine of the story is mute. She cannot speak because of some accident when she was younger. And they really hit it off. But of course, our hero here, once after they get married and she comes back to his place, realizes that he has a daughter. He is a single dad, and it's just so freaking sweet. I really enjoyed this romance, and I especially love seeing this gruff, big badass kind of mafia guy, and then he like crumbles basically like a cookie for his little girl, and he is completely wrapped around her fingers. Like, he will do anything for her, and it's just absolutely adorable, and I loved seeing that. Then we have Undulate by Elodie Hart. This is, again, a second book in a series. I believe this is called the Alchemy series. And this is centered around a sex club and all of the different people that like own this sex club. So this one is about our hero. He is like the financial person for the sex club, and he is a widow. His wife recently passed away. So now he's trying to raise his two daughters alone. And then we have our heroine of the story who also works at the sex club, and she runs like social media. So he is like, he's also part owner. So he is sort of her boss. And he is also a little bit more, I would say, the most conservative out of all the members of this sex club. And she's much more open with her sexuality, and she's very attracted to him, and she wants to kind of push his buttons and get him to let go because he's got a lot on his plate. He's very stressed. So she just wants to have some fun with him and let him act out some of his repressed sexual desires. And then, of course, in doing so, it turns into their romance. And she ends up babysitting a few times for him with his daughters. His daughters love her, and it's just really cute. What I really enjoyed about this one the most, not only is this a really sexy, very high steam on this one, but I did really enjoy that he felt like he was seeing signs from his ex-wife, giving her blessing for them to be together. So I thought that was a nice little little tidbit that the author put into the story. Then I have Sinful Vows by Lillian Harris. This is another mafia romance, and I loved this story. This is not necessarily an arranged marriage. This is more so a forced marriage. Our heroine of the story is, she's been sex trafficked, but she's been in this for many, many, many years. So at the house that she is at, the hero of the story ends up pulling up and having words with the men that run this house. And she decides to sneak out, and she gets into his car and hides. And she's hoping to escape. But then her friend is still in captivity. So she's helping to escape, find police, find whoever she can to then come back and help her friend out. So, however, he ends up driving to his house, and she ends up getting like trapped in his house. He is needing to get married so that he can become the capo. And that's just kind of how their organization works, that he has to get married in order to inherit that title. But he has seen what love has done to people in his family, and he has seen how much love can be a weakness. So he does not want to marry for love. He just wants this arrangement. So he finds her in his house and makes a deal with her that she has to marry him and be married to him for a year, and then he will let her go and go find her family and go try to find her friend and help her friend out. And he, of course, the single dad, he has a little daughter, and it's pretty similar to the other mafia romance that I had in this list. It's so adorable because he is definitely rough, badass kind of guy, but he will move heaven and earth for his little girl. Like, he will do anything for her. And then that starts to extend towards our heroine of the story. So I loved this one. It was so good. Then we have Hold Me While You Wait by Kimberly Brown. This is about two single parents. Our hero of the story ended up raising his daughter by himself as soon as she was born, because his baby mama did not want to have a baby. So she kind of left town. And then our heroine of the story is a recently divorced. She has her son, and then she's kind of almost like a surrogate mother to her niece, because her sister recently passed away. And so now she has kind of full custody of her niece and is taking care of her. So they're both single parents, and their daughters are starting, I can't remember if it's like they're starting middle school or one of those grades. They're starting school, and on the first day of school, they end up becoming best friends because one of them has, and I'm probably butchering this word, vitiglo. It's where there's like the white patches on black skin. So she has this, and she gets bullied for it. And then our other character's daughter ends up standing up for her. And so that happens on the very first day of school. And they end up getting called to the school because they have to go to detention, because when she stood up for her, she actually punched this person in the face. But I'm just also kind of like, go her. But of course, this sealed them as immediate best friends. And this brings our two characters together, and they are both very attracted towards one another. And because their daughters are best friends, they want to hang out all the time. So they end up having to see each other again and again. And they start to go out on dates. And it's so cute. They both have some baggage with them, with their exes kind of causing problems, but everything in the story works out so well. Both of them put so much effort into their relationships and their focus on their kids. This guy is honestly like total book boyfriend. He is such a gentleman. I absolutely loved he does daily positive affirmations with his daughter in the morning, trying to instill good confidence in her. And it's just so sweet and so heartwarming, and I absolutely love this book. It was so good. So this honestly would probably work for either of my recommendation videos, so because it has single dad, but it also has a single mom in it. So both of them were fantastic characters, and I love them. Then I have another Karina Halle story. This one is going to be A Nordic King. This is the third book in a series, again, a series of standalones, so you'd be fine just reading this on its own. This is about the king of Denmark. Sorry, I had to look at my notes real quick. And he is a widow. He is a single dad to two girls, and he has hired a nanny. So this girl comes, she takes the job as a nanny, but does not realize who it is for. And then she finds out that it is the king, and she's very overwhelmed by this. But she's also very intrigued by him, because he is a very gruff and stoic person. But then he like gives her little like glances here and there, and we start to build this attraction, but it's very like forbidden because she's the nanny and he's the king. So this one was so good. Again, the girls were so cute. There's some other like mysterious kind of plot lines going on, but it takes a while to kind of build the romance, but then also kind of knowing like if things could potentially work between them, because like I said, because he is the king. So I have a couple more for you. Then we have Irresistible by Melanie Harlow. This is the first book in the I think it's called the Cloverleigh Farms series. So this is about the CFO of the Cloverleigh Farms. He is divorced, and he is raising his 3 daughters on his own, and all the struggles that go along with that. And he is very attracted to the owner's youngest daughter. So there's a little bit of an age gap between them, but it's only about like 10 years. She is like 27, and she has like lived in this town all her life, and she works for her parents and has never really done too much outside of that, but she's always been attracted to our hero of this story, and she also babysits for him part-time, when he can't find any other like sitter for his kids. So his daughters absolutely adore her, and they kind of start a fling together when it snows, and she was babysitting for him, and she couldn't get home, because the roads were too bad, so she ended up staying the night at his place, and they had like a little bit of a one night stand, and then it kind of leads towards more. So I really enjoyed this one, especially the aspect again, between her and his daughters, and his daughters end up being kind of the ones to convince their dad that he should date her, and which I thought was adorable. So I really enjoyed this one. And then the last one that I have to recommend is going to be You and Me by Tal Bauer. This is an Achillean romance, so male, and this is about our 2 dads. Their sons are in high school and play high school football together. Our first character, Luke. Yes, Luke. His wife unexpectedly passed away. So him and his son are not in the best place. His son is actively hostile towards him. They're just not in a very good place, and I think a lot of that is all from grief that was going on. So Luke decides he's going to one of his son's football games, and he runs into Landon, who is our other character of the story, and Landon was like, hey, why don't you volunteer with the parents for all of these games, and then you would actually get to be a little bit more involved with your son's life and see him a little bit more, and see if this will kind of mend things between you. So in doing so, Luke is not a big football person, doesn't know anything about football, but he wants to come there to support his son. So he becomes good friends with Landon, and Landon is kind of like helping him to show the ropes and teaches him a lot about football. And Luke finds out that Landon is gay. But then they start spending more time together, and Luke starts to realize that he thinks about Landon all the time and always wants to be around him and hang out with him, until suddenly, this is definitely a bi awakening kind of story, suddenly he realizes he has more than just friendship feelings towards Landon. So this one was just it was so sweet. How slow their romance starts to build was just, it was just the absolute sweetest story. And I loved this one so much. It was just so good. And I highly recommend it, which is why, of course, that is on this recommendations video for y'all. So those are going to be all my recommendations for now. I have a lot more books on my list of single dads to check out. So again, hopefully I will have a part 2 at some point for you all. But before you go, if you have any recommendations for me on single dads or single moms, single parents in general, please leave a comment down below. I really appreciate it, and I love hearing from you guys. Otherwise, leave a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. But that is going to be it for this video. But I will see you all in the next one then. Bye, guys.